You're off slack, you fucking moron!
Ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, welcome back to Screenshare, a movie podcast about waking up in your own pink world and just waving to your own homegirls, or whatever the line is. It does say homegirls, I just don't know what the lead up to that is. I'm Adam Cook.
I did not memorize the Lizzo song. My name's
me neither, clearly. Welcome back to the podcast. This episode we're continuing our movies from last year. Last episode we reviewed Bottoms. We talked about that film, which was Calder's pick.
Yeah. And
we liked that one. And now we're talking here about Barbie, I was about to say the 2023 film, but obviously because of their films from last year. I picked this movie because I liked it, is the main thing. But
wow, wild.
I think it was also just because like I used to love going to the theater and seeing a movie and like having the theater experience. Mm-hmm. And then obviously like the pandemic happened and like didn't get to experience that much. But even post-pandemic, I feel like I haven't really gotten that kind of like, wow, this is an amazing theater experience. Mm-hmm. I guess I kind of had that with Avatar: The Way of Water a little bit, but like that was more because the movie was like it was a cool theater experience because it was cool to watch in a theater. But Barbie was the first movie post-pandemic for me where like the theater experience of like being in a room full of people all watching it and reacting at the same time was like what I like about going to a theater. Yeah. So I think that's the main reason I picked it, is just because it blew my expectations out of the water, I think, when we saw it. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you and I saw it together in theaters, saw Barbie and Oppenheimer in the same day. We saw Oppenheimer first and we watched and we were like, that was long, but it was good. And then we watched Barbie, and I was excited for it. Yeah. Like, probably more excited for it than I was Oppenheimer, but, like, I was just like, this will be fun. Mm-hmm. And then it was, I really enjoyed it as more than just, like, a goofy movie about a toy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I chose it. I like Barbie. What are your thoughts?
I liked it. I liked it when we saw it. I think it was fun to see with a big crowd and like and that whole day was kind of cool because usually when you go to see movies, like even I think when we went to see Spider-Verse, it wasn't like a packed theater, but I think we saw it opening weekend. Yeah. Where it's like even if you go opening weekend, it's not usually a packed theater. Yeah. But for those two it was.
Yeah, both showings.
So there's just like a different feeling of like, oh, there's a bunch of people. You hear different people in different areas like murmur or like react to different things.
It felt like not that like everyone was talking to people they didn't know or anything in the hallway or something, but it did kind of feel like everyone who was there together or something. Because like a lot of people were wearing pink. Some people were wearing like Oppenheimer like blazers or like little hats. But like I don't know, the whole Barbenheimer craze I think was the most I felt like it was an event that I was going to in a very long time. I actually probably the most it's felt like that, aside from just people being like, yeah, we're going to the premiere of a movie.
Well, probably aside from like Endgame.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
like that was the last time I felt like everyone was passionate about the thing they were going to see.
Yeah. That's fair.
So maybe we'll see if they keep doing stuff like making good event movies, because most of the event movies now are kind of not very good.
Yeah.
But
I think that I think it's inevitable. I feel like studios are going to try and replicate the whole Barbenheimer thing. It's not going to happen because it happened kind of accidentally, and like it just happened because they were coming out on the same weekend.
Yeah.
And like people were like, oh, which one's are people gonna see? And then everyone went, what if we just saw both of them?
Yeah.
And it kind of just became a thing. Like, it's similar with, like, the Morbius thing, where it became a thing to go see Morbius a bunch of times, even though the movie was ass.
Yeah, but no one actually saw Morbius.
I know, but, like, more people saw it than if there wasn't a weird thing about, like, people going and seeing Morbius. Or I guess Minions.
Yeah, I think the Gentle Minions is a better example.
Yeah.
Because, like, Morbius did not do
well.
well.
I think Minions was what I was trying to think of, and then I was like, Morbius kind of did it.
No. They made a meme of Morbius, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
Like, Morbius and Black Adam have the same thing, where it's like, there were jokes about them.
Yeah.
But no one actually cared about them.
But I just remember Morbius people being like going and seeing it multiple times and like memorizing parts that were coming up because it was so bad. Anyway.
Yeah.
But
it's
like
Morbin time.
It's Morbin time. But like my point is that like with all of those, they kind of just happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we're probably gonna see especially after the Barbenheimer craze, see studios like try to like manufacture that kind of thing again, and I just don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's especially next year too. There's like not a lot of good movies coming out. Like there's a couple weekends where like literally no new movie is going into theaters.
Yeah,
just because of the strike and like things were pushed to this year, which makes it a better year. But if like Dune and things like that weren't pushed,
yeah,
it probably would just be like an all-time bad year for movies.
Yeah, because
there was 6 months of people just not working.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, but you could just do the AI. Just get the AI to do it, man.
I mean, not yet.
I know. Genuine question. Do you think any big studios have actually done like big chunks AI written movies that have been released?
Written?
Yeah. Because like some of them are bad.
Probably not.
Okay.
But I think
they're trying.
The bad parts of the movies are just because there's so much meddling in them.
Yeah, I guess so.
Not because they're trying to bring in AI.
Well, also I think because like I've seen a couple videos about how like it used to be you have a big writer's room,
mm-hmm.
and like either you have a big writer's room and everyone's collaborating to write something, or you have someone who writes something and then they make it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if like apparently now it's a lot more like you hire on a this is more for TV shows, but it's also for movies where like you hire on a writer for like a week or like bring them in for a couple days and
like
then
short stints.
Yeah, because they don't want to pay them a full thing,
yeah.
so they'll just bring in a writer, get rid of them, bring in a writer, get rid of them. And it's just like that I feel like would contribute a lot to it, because then it's not like a sound idea. It's just people being like, I guess I can contribute something to this, but I'm not really a part of it.
Yeah. And then like I feel like you're talking about the Disney shows a little bit. Like, is that sort of...
Well, not even just Disney shows. I just feel like writing has become like a bit stale just in the past 3 years or so.
I'll talk about the Disney shows then.
Sure,
they're like
kind
of the absolute worst for writing,
mm-hmm.
because they're just so like boring and so little happens.
Yeah.
And I think it is partially because like they do this sort of mini room kind of chunking of who's going to do the writing, and then the person who's like in control of all the creative things for the show is the showrunner.
Yeah.
Whereas that position is a little, or like the director, but also a lot of times the director is kind of the showrunner too. Where it's just like, I don't know. It's not this with movies. It makes more sense to have a director be in control because it is like one thing that wraps up there. But TV show directors can change.
Yeah.
So trying to have the same creative flow, especially in the writing, is difficult because people want to take things different ways, which is why TV shows were kind of better written when it was just like the writer's room had all the power.
Yeah.
And the director just kind of would come in and do the thing. It was more of a for-hire job.
It's like how, like, with shows like Parks and Rec, like, almost every cast member eventually directed an episode or more.
Yeah.
Because the writers remain the same.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's some turnover, but for the most part, like, the writer's room continues through, and, like, a director just has to come in, and all the minimum requirement is just that they understand the tone of the show.
Yeah.
And, like, then they just follow the script, and that for the most part, and, like, all the crew has done this a million times, so, like, it's not really going to lose quality.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, obviously we'll get into this next year, but, like, a good example is, like, the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. Those are films where the writer and director changed every time, and it's bad. It's like, and that's what's happening with shows. That's just like a larger scale, but like that's kind of what's happening with shows right now. Is it's just like they don't want to commit to paying someone a full like time salary to like be the person doing this, so they're just like changing them in and out. And I've seen it with some Star Wars shows as well.
Yeah,
they're getting a bit better with it. Like in the Ahsoka show, like Dave Filoni was the showrunner, but like also
the show's not good.
It's not good. It's just not like really good.
It's just like they're trying to change so much and make TV more cost effective, but it's making it worse.
Yeah, but they're also making TV more expensive at the same time.
Which I don't understand how that's happening, really.
What I truly think it is they're actually, I was going to say they're paying like writers and like it probably is they're paying like writers less and like special effects artists less, but they're paying actors more. But they're not paying actors more though.
Yeah, I don't know how these things are getting so expensive. Like even Indiana Jones 3, when it's like $300 million, and you're like, okay, there's something for COVID in there, but like, how is this shit costing so much?
Did you say Indiana Jones 3?
4 or 5? I don't know. Both, all of them.
Yeah,
4 and 5 are too expensive, but like because they're also shooting a lot of these Disney shows on the volume.
Yeah,
so it's just kind of like, how have you not figured out how to make that cost effective? Anyway, this is not about Barbie because Barbie is good.
It's good. Last thing, this is the last thing, and then we'll get back on Barbie. Man, when they revealed the volume and like what it was and what it could do, I was like, wow, this is like innovative technology, and I'm excited for what it can do. But then they just have been like doing almost only volume stuff. Yeah, and it's like The Last of Us used the volume, but they did it sparingly. But like there's still moments where it's like, well, they're actually on a set, or like they're actually outside.
Yeah,
and that like, so when there's like a shot with the volume, you're not like, this looks like shit. You're just like, oh, this makes sense, because they only use it when it makes sense. But then there's shows like the Star Wars shows, a lot of the Marvel shows, where it's like the whole thing looks like it took place in like a 12 square foot room. Yeah, and it's like you're supposed to be outside.
I don't know,
it looks bad.
Yeah, it's just like rough, just rough. But Barbie doesn't do that.
Barbie doesn't do that. In fact, the sets are incredible.
Yeah,
like that was one of my first notes that I wrote down watching it again, was just that like the sets, the props, the costuming, like it truly feels like because I wrote this in my research, there's been like multiple attempts to make a live action Barbie movie, but like the original idea was like in the 80s, and it was more traditional, like the movie was going to be like Barbie comes to life and helps a girl discover that she can be whatever she wants to be. And that was going to be the movie. And then there was like one with Amy Schumer where she was going to play Barbie, and she also wrote it. And then that kind of fell through. Anne Hathaway was going to be Barbie at one point. And then we got to the Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie, Noah Baumbach, Ryan Gosling, whatever, which is what we got, and it's great. But like, when I think, like before seeing the movie, if I thought live action Barbie, I'd be like, I don't really know what that looks like, really. But then watching the movie, especially like the opening bit, it's like, oh, that is exactly what it is. It's literally like, it looks like you are in a Barbie toy world.
Yeah.
But the Barbies just have flesh. Like, that's literally what it looks like. And like the dream houses and like the beach and like all these things just look so good. And I didn't realize this watching the first time, but like I assumed a lot of it was CG. And almost none of it is.
Yeah.
Like, even the transition bits when they're going from Barbie Land to real world or vice versa, like, I'm pretty sure none of that is CG. I'm sure there's, like, some touch-ups or whatever. But, like, I saw some behind-the-scenes, like, 2 days ago where it was, like, no, like, the waves going by, a seagull, like, coming by, that's all just, like props and, like, puppets and, like, people, like, ducking behind the set and moving the waves. And it's like, man... It just
like
makes me love it more.
Old school movie making, you know, where they really did the thing.
Yeah. It really feels like like an old school movie making film, but with a big budget.
Yeah.
And it works, which I feel like usually that kind of a thing, like, there's a lot of room for error.
Yeah.
But they kind of nailed it.
Yeah. I was pretty surprised. I think... I don't know. I was always excited for the movie because like, as soon as you see the cast and like there's like 100 people in it, which is ridiculous. Like, I was excited from then because also I like Greta Gerwig. She did Lady Bird and Little Women. I was gonna say Lady Women.
Lady Woman and Little Bird.
And before that, she like was an actor. Her most famous role I think is in Frances Ha, working with Noah Baumbach. But she's like become one of the great directors along with Jordan Peele, like great young directors with like Jordan Peele, Damien Chazelle, why am I forgetting?
Emma Seligman.
I guess she's a bit of a different generation. Who did Moonlight? Barry Jenkins. And like those 4 are kind of their own new thing of big people who are getting big budgets to do original stuff.
And are being trusted to do so.
Yeah.
Because that was a big thing with this movie, was that they went to Greta Gerwig, or really Margot Robbie went to, like, Margot Robbie apparently pitched the movie to Warner Brothers.
Yeah, she's produced it. She's, like, kind of shepherded the whole thing along. Yeah. And also, she thought of Gal Gadot for the role first instead of her, which is kind of ridiculous.
No offense to anybody,
Margot
but
Robbie's
thank goodness.
Just a better actress.
Yeah. But yeah, she went to Warner Brothers and pitched it, and she went to Greta Gerwig and asked if she could do it. Like they faced some bumps along the road as far as like convincing Mattel to let them do stuff. Yeah. Like the initial script, I mean even the final script contains a lot of like criticism of Mattel as a company. And, like, Barbie and its negative influence on women. And, like, they make comments about, like, Barbies being plastic and going into landfills. And, like, they have a lot of criticism of Mattel and Barbie. And apparently there was a lot of pushback from, like, Mattel executives. But the CEO was like, I trust Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach in this. Like,
and he was also probably like, oh, it could make $1 billion and then we'll get some money.
Yeah. Well, like, because apparently they did not think it was going to make $1 billion, but they thought it was going to, be good. Otherwise they wouldn't have had $145 million budget.
Yeah.
But like, they like, what was I just about to say? Oh yeah. They pushed back on it, but the CEO was basically like, I trust that that the movie's not just going to be shitting on us the whole time. It's going to have like a reason to do so and like purpose, and you're going to tie it around to be something. But there was also pushback on something else. Oh, there was pushback on, apparently they wanted to take out the like bus bench scene with the old woman.
Yeah.
Just because they were like, that's a scene that doesn't it's like kind of circular, like it doesn't really cause anything or lead to anything. It's kind of just a scene on its own. So they were like, you could remove that and it wouldn't change the story. But apparently Greta Gerwig really pulled for that because...
Yeah. Well, Barbie needs something to do in the movie. She needs some sort of, like, moment.
Yeah.
Other than that, she, like, doesn't really do very much.
Yeah, she kind of just, like... Well, she does a lot, but not really for purpose. Because she doesn't really know why she's... Like, she doesn't know what's going on or why she's doing anything. So she, like... It's like when the executives come in or they're like, we're from Mattel. We got to bring it to Mattel. And she's like, okay. Like, she truly...
I just mean, like, she doesn't have any, like, moments, really, to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I feel like the movie is kind of taken over by Ken.
A little bit, yeah.
Because, like... that performance or that role is the funny one.
Yeah.
It gets a lot of the big set pieces. It gets a lot of the stuff to do. Whereas like Barbie doesn't really do anything in the movie really.
I do feel like it's very Barbie focused until like honestly until they go back to Barbie Land.
Yeah, she's like not in the movie in the last act.
Like I mean and it might be kind of intentional because it's literally the point where, like, is it Ariana Greenblatt's character, the daughter?
From 65.
And from Ahsoka.
I don't know.
She's in that as well.
I don't do that.
But she, like, when they're basically like, and that's the movie. And then she steps forward and she's like, but what about Barbie? Like, she's still kind of like, like, what's her ending? And Will Ferrell, CEO, is like, well, she loves Ken. And she's like, I don't love Ken, actually. But, like, when she asks what Barbie's ending is, like, literally, like, 3 layers of people have to move out of the way. Because she's just, like, in the background at this point. Like, literally and figuratively. And I think that's, like... Because especially at the beginning, she is the focus, not just of the movie, but of... everyone else in Barbie Land. Everyone is saying hi to her, the Barbies and the Kens. Everybody is like flocking to her. She's the focus. But then like as soon as she kind of starts to I guess like become more conscious and aware of like I guess the real world and like what the real world is and its negatives, but also like knowing about the real world and seeing the negatives of Barbie Land as well, and like how limiting it is to her now that she knows so much. Like it I don't know what the ending of this thought is.
Okay.
But it's like she fades into the background because like she doesn't know what her place is, so why would she be in like the forefront anymore, I guess.
I guess it just feels like
I do think Ken kind of takes it over just because I'm guessing everyone was like, man, Ryan Gosling as Ken is a hit. We got to have more of him.
Yeah, I think it's written this way as well, but I just like feel like in the real world, not much really happens for Barbie aside from her being like, maybe I should like do something, which is okay, but it's like the whole middle part of the section of the movie. You just kind of like, kind of dips and then it goes back up at the end.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of got this like it's by no means like bad or anything. I'm not trying to say it's bad. But if I'm like thinking about the movie, I'm like, okay, it's got a great opening and then she goes into the real world. It's kind of like, okay, it's kind of fun. There's some fun stuff.
I do think the real world bit is like the least interesting.
And it feels like kind of not fully like thought out or realized with like the Mattel stuff where you're just kind of like, what exactly does this fit? How does this fit into the payoff of the Mattel stuff is kind of bad.
Yeah. It does feel like they were like, it feels like the real world is real compared to Barbie Land until they get to Mattel, and then Mattel is kind of Barbie Land.
Yeah.
Not in the, like, they're not the same as Barbie Land, but like it's that level of ridiculous. Like they have these weird cubicles
that are closed in on all sides. Like when they're chasing Barbie, like it's a fun sequence, but like when they're chasing Barbie and everyone's like going in different directions and like running past Barbie, it's like, it's fun visually and it's a little goofy,
But then it's like, wait, so why everyone? This is how people would behave in Barbie Land, but we're in the real world. So then it's like, is Barbie Land that way because Mattel is this way and they make Barbie?
Yeah, and then it's
but like,
and then that leads into like one of the worst car chases I've seen.
Yeah, here's the thing. So when we watched the movie the first time, I didn't really clock that it was like very clearly an ad. And then everyone was like, what'd you think about the fucking commercial for Chevrolet? And I was like, what? So then this time I was like, okay, I'm going to really pay attention and like watch it, paying attention to the fact that it's kind of like a commercial. And I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be, but like, there's a couple, because like sometimes it's just like a car chase and like big whoop it's got a big Chevrolet logo on it, but there are some times where it's just framed perfectly like it's the final shot in a car commercial where it's like, and you can get this for whatever like RSP, whatever it's called. Like they're just like saying the things. There's a bunch of, like, throw some like fine print on the bottom of some of these shots and you'd think it's a car commercial. Then there's also the point where she's got to speed up, so she hits the big screen on the thing and it enters like turbo mode, and I'm like, oh, that's probably a feature of the car. So like, but a part of me's like, if they had to put a basically commercial for Chevrolet in there in order to like have the Ken like dance and song number, then like whatever.
Yeah, but it's like, it's pretty egregious in my opinion. There's like 30% or 40% of these shots that feel like literally completely different, like frame rate of like everything, completely different framing from anything that is in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Just, I think there was like rumors that it's because Gerwig went over budget, so then she had to like do this for Chevrolet to get some money to finish whatever, and like I understand that, but you're just kind of like,
if that is the case, they probably just got the Chevrolet people to make the commercial, or like to shoot that part, because like the main one that like I noticed that's kind of what you're saying is like the in the car shot of like them in the car, like for that chase sequence, looks vastly different than like the same shot at the end when they're in the car before Barbie goes in to see her gynecologist.
Yeah.
Like they just look completely different. And one of them looks like a shot from the Big Bang Theory in a car or something. Maybe not that bad. But like one of them looks like a car commercial. One of them looks like a movie. Yeah. And it's like, to me, it's clear that was kind of done later.
Yeah. It's just like unfortunate.
Yeah.
Like you'd hope that the big set piece for the main character doesn't have to do that. Yeah. Because then Ken gets like 3 other big cool things that are like totally in the world of Barbie. Yeah. And you're like, he has all this stuff. Why does her stuff have to be so like cut back and like kind of not fully realized, where you're just like, so she's like fucking with Mattel for most of this thing, and then like she has like this bad car chase, and then she disappears for the third act, and then she has the emotional payoff, which does work.
It does work,
but it's just kind of like, I wish
feels
this
a bit
middle
like,
was stronger for her.
Yeah, because like that, I truly think my favorite scene in the movie is like when Ruth Handler and Barbie are kind of like in the void or whatever, and like Ruth Handler's basically like, I need to make sure that you're aware of like the pros and cons of like being a human being and like all this. Like, I think that's not only one of the best scenes in the movie, I think it's like, I wrote that it's like, I think the best human core scene I've seen in a movie, where it's just like really like getting to like the heart of what existing is. And I really love it. The issue is, like you're saying, it does kind of feel like a little bit, like there's some movies where you are kind of like reminded that a character exists. It's not quite to that level, but it is kind of like we're thrown right into the most emotional scene in the movie, arguably, with a character that we haven't spent more than like maybe like 30 seconds at a time with in the past half hour. And it's like, I do wish that there was more Barbie in the third act than there is.
Yeah.
Which I get that it's focused on like the Kens and like stopping the Kens and like the whole thing where they're like going around and like tricking the Kens into like losing focus on certain Barbies so they can whatever is like very good. And then I think like the beach fight sequence with the Kens is great. It's not because what is in place of Barbie is bad. It's just that the lack of Barbie kind of like, I feel like detracts a little bit from the third act.
Yeah. And I think it's just like in the award stuff too. No one really is talking about Margot Robbie as Barbie because the role is just kind of like doesn't feel fully constructed or fully there. Whereas like Ryan Gosling is getting buzz for a nomination as Ken. Because like I understand that that's kind of the point of the movie, but it becomes his movie.
Yeah.
And I just like, I think the fix is just to make or come up with a better idea for the Mattel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just kind of like spent time doing something that's not great. And like, I don't really understand why the Mattel stuff is fully necessary because it like doesn't really contribute to the conclusion of the movie in any way. I'm pretty sure it was like intended to be like to highlight how like consumerism kind of like muddies creativity and like art in some way, but that's kind of ironic because the Mattel scenes kind of muddy the like the creativity. It's the worst stuff in the movie, I think.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Like I don't think Will Ferrell does a bad job. There's a couple chuckle-worthy moments from the Mattel stuff.
Yeah.
But it does feel like it's from a different movie a little bit. And it feels like when Barbie gets to the real world, her mindset is, I've just got to find who is playing with me so I can bring them to Barbie Land and fix everything and I can go back to living my regular life. And then her time in the real world is her like realizing things about the real world and realizing things about herself that like basically make her have kind of an existential crisis. She like cries a lot and it's like a bit of a crazy time for her. But then when she's going back to Barbie Land, she's like under the impression that everything is fine and everything is still gonna go back to normal. So it's like, even though it feels like she has an arc during her time in the real world, her entering the real world and leaving the real world are kind of the same, which feels a little bit weird. Maybe that's just because she's in denial about the real world and then gets to Kendom, land of freedom and men or something like that, I think is what he says. But like, I think maybe that like seeing that and the reality of that then like shatters that denial and then she just gives up basically. But like, it does feel like, I would have very much rather had her go on some sort of journey where she actually does like find America Ferrera and like doesn't find her at Mattel, but finds her at like her home. Yeah. And like they have like a nice conversation or something, or like, I don't know. I feel like there's just more you could do to make it a more personal and engaging thing than like having this weird thing with putting her back in the box. And like I feel like Mattel chasing them is a decent thing to have, so there's some sort of narrative drive. Sure. But like, it just kind of I wish they were chasing Barbie and America Ferrera. Yeah.
And Sasha, the daughter.
Yeah. I feel like it would be more interesting if Mattel was just the bad guys rather than being like the kind of bad guys, but really they're kind of just the confused guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like...
And maybe that's a Mattel note.
Maybe.
But, like, I also just, like, almost any time... I guess the first thing when Barbie goes to the lunch table, there's, like, that and then the America Ferrera one where I'm like, I understand this, but it's just, like, so overwrought where you're just kind of like, I wish they weren't trying to cram all of the themes and everything into both of these speeches. Because it feels like they're just like, okay, and this is what the movie's about for like 3 minutes. So here's exactly what the movie's about. And then they do it at the end again, and you're just like,
I do think two big
guess.
criticisms
Like,
of the movie that I've seen from people is like, as far as like the messaging goes, is like, one, the messaging is like not heavy-handed, but it's like very obvious.
Yeah.
Or it's like they are telling you what the message is. And then the other criticism is that like they don't really go far enough with the messaging, and it's kind of like things you've heard before, just like said more plainly than you've probably seen it in any media.
Yeah.
Which I think is still good, but like those are criticisms that I understand as well, where it's like you could go further with it. But I actually, because I think that the lunch table scene is good, although a part of me is like, Ariana Greenblatt's character is being very, very mean to someone she's never met before. Like,
Yeah.
like maybe kids are meaner than
I'm not sure
I am aware
true.
of, but like she's brutal to her. She calls her a fascist, says like accuses her of all these things. It's weird.
Why
She
would
says,
Barbie know what a fascist is?
I don't know.
Anyway.
But like, that's a great point. But like, it's weird because she's like, she doesn't believe that Barbie is Barbie, but then also is talking to her as if she's Barbie, which is just like, anyway. So like that scene, I don't think it's bad, but it's like, I feel like it kind of misses a little bit. The America Ferrera speech, I think, is like very good, but I honestly think that, but it is like very like obvious, whatever, but I still think it's good. And the truth is, some people kind of need it to be that heavy-handed obvious to like get it, unfortunately.
I guess, but I feel like people who need it probably aren't watching Barbie.
Yeah, or are watching it and being like, and are hearing it but not listening to it. Yeah, but I think the more effective scene that gets kind of achieves the same goal that those scenes are trying to get, but in a much more subtle way, is when America Ferrera, Ariana Greenblatt, and Michael Cera as Alan are like in the car and they're about to leave. And Alan starts fucking people up, just starts beating people up. Also, a great line when he's like, once they learn to build that wall sideways and not just up, no one will be able to leave.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's just like, this is huge Jenga tower. Anyway, thought that was funny. But like, I feel like the scene where Alan is like beating up Ken's, but then Ariana Greenblatt is like, we have to go back because like, we have to save Barbie. Barbie's not Barbie anymore. We need to help her. And America Ferrera's like, you don't like Barbie. And she's like, but you do. And like your drawings are amazing. And she's like saying all these things. And she's like, you're cool and like weird and dark and crazy. And like just the way that she's like the daughter is just like accepting who the mom is and like acknowledging who the mom is. And being like, and that's okay. And not only is that okay, but like those are great things about you. I feel like that's almost more effective than America Ferrera saying all of that plus more, but like very plainly.
Yeah. And also, like, I think the kitchen table scene does a version of that very well also. Yeah. Where it's just kind of like a good scene between the two characters. But it's just like the lunch table one and then the America Ferrera one, I'm just like, we're just putting monologues in here, and it's just like, I don't know. I think just the fact that like I'd kind of known that stuff before, just hearing it like that, I was like, okay, I guess this is for people in the back or something.
Well, I think it is a bit of that. I think it's this weird balance where, like, I think that it is that speech specifically is trying to tackle a lot of things where it's like it is trying to get through to men who have never thought about these things and don't understand these things. It is also trying to, like, validate women's experiences, and it is also trying to, like, prepare young girls for, like, what the world is like, but also be like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, it feels like it's trying to hit the mark on multiple different audiences, but I think it succeeds in a lot. Like, a lot of people absolutely adore that speech.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, unfortunately, like, because it's trying to hit so many, like, I think unfortunately, men that need to hear it, probably won't. Even if they hear it, I don't think the men that need to hear that will, like, process it properly, because the men that need to hear it probably have a wall up against that. And I think it's easy for, like, not to, like, say that I'm an enlightened man, like Ken says at the end. He's like, I'm an enlightened man. Yeah. I know I can cry or whatever. But, like, I think it's easy for us as, like, men who understand, like the true, like, reality of the kind of, like, turmoil that patriarchy kind of, like, causes, and, like, the challenge that women face. It's easy for us to be like, we know this shit, like, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, unfortunately, there's a large mass of people that do not.
Yeah.
And I think that's, but it's like what I'm saying is, like, the issue is that target is probably going to be missed. So then it kind of makes it kind of creates this feeling where it's like the speech it does miss, because, like, the people who are going to listen to it and agree with it already agree with it.
Yeah. I guess it's just, like, just find a better way to put that into the movie, I think. Because, like, the character of Barbie has so much potential.
Yeah.
And, like, it's like, okay, why are we having to do these speeches when we've got this Mattel shit in here?
Yeah.
Like, how have we not figured out a better way to communicate these things? And also, you can still have the speech, but, like, me being like, okay, well, we fucked around for, like, 45 minutes, and now you're trying to, like, cram it all into this 2.5 minute scene.
It does kind of feel like they were like, we have all these things we want to address.
Yeah.
Let's just, like, obviously the monologue is more well written than this, but it's kind of like a list where they're just, it kind of feels like they were going through the list of things that they want to address and, like, acknowledge. But yeah, it feels like if you removed the Mattel stuff or altered it to make it less long and kind of boring, not boring, but, like,
just, like,
unneeded.
Unconsequential.
Yeah. Like, I honestly think it would be more interesting if instead of a monologue from America Ferrera, it was, like, Barbie working through these new things that she's feeling, and America Ferrera, which there's, like, a couple moments of it, but, like, I feel like the speech would be more effective if it was Barbie working through new feelings and America Ferrera being like, yes, like, yeah,
like she's finally seeing what's going on.
Yeah, because then it would be more of a, like, because then people could be like, they could put themselves in Barbie's shoes as, like, as she's understanding, we are understanding, rather than just, like, being told by America Ferrera, I guess.
Because Barbie's got the objective view of the world.
Yeah.
Because she's never been in the real world. So then when she sees something like that and then brings it back and it's like, oh, this is how this is this and this and this.
Yeah.
Not that she's going to fully understand it, but if it's like, if there's a play between them, it's just, I think that's just a little more interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking about the negatives. I think the movie has incredible music.
Yes.
Incredible production design.
And all the performances are so good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's a missed performance
No.
in the movie. Like, the closest to a miss in performance is probably Will Ferrell, but not because he's bad, just because, like, the character feels out of place. But, like, every single Barbie, every single Ken absolutely knocks it out of the park. Like, Simu Liu is, like, kind of a perfect
rival.
Anti-Ken to Ken. Yeah. Well, not anti-Ken. He's very much also still the same. But, like, I don't know. I think it's weird. Every aspect of the movie feels very strong, and I think maybe its strongest aspect is its message, but also I think the area that it, like, struggles with the most is in some of the ways that it decides to deliver that message, I guess.
Yeah. I think I'd agree.
Yeah. But anyway, now to the positives. What's I don't really know where here, let me look at my notes.
I think the movie's very funny.
Yes,
I think it's a
very
really
funny.
enjoyable movie to watch. It's pretty, like, it feels pretty quick. It's well paced.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very well made movie. I'm just like, the story decisions, but, like, everything about the movie is very well done.
Yeah.
And, like, the absolute 10 out of 10 highs of the beginning and the end kind of make up for everything else with, like, the dance sequences and the music and the entire world that's created and the visual effects, even, like, how those are so well done and, like, put in there with, like, the sparkles and things like that. And, like, the movie is very, very good. So what was, like, a standout for you?
I mean, I think the entire introduction sequence is like, because I say introduction sequence, I'm thinking of, like, Barbie waking up in her dream house and, like, making her toast perfectly and, like, sipping out of a fake cup with nothing in it and like floating down into her car and, like, waving at everyone going to the beach. But, like, even before that, they have the like 2001 A Space Odyssey, like, intro, which I think is very funny. And then, like, also transitions from that into kind of, like, not like a history of Barbie, but a brief synopsis of, like, what Barbie is, like, literally, and then also what Barbie is, like, as, like, an image or like as an idea. And I think the whole thing with, like, the white background and a bunch of Barbies, like, all with their things and being like, I'm Barbie, like, all these things. I think that whole intro is, like, really well done. Helen Mirren being the narrator is very, I feel like it's kind of perfect. So, like, the intro sequence and just being blown away by how it looks, and the music working with, like, not just being, like, a great, like, accessory to the visuals in the movie, but, like, being intertwined with and working with the dialogue and what's happening on screen, I think really elevates it. Like I said, I think any scene with Alan in it is just, I love Alan so much. He's probably my favorite character in the film. And then I think that, I think the bus bench scene is very sweet. Even before she looks over at the older woman, who's a Oscar-winning costume designer, named with the name of Anne Roth. Sorry, just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay.
She didn't do the costume designing for this movie, but she was included. This is her first credited acting role. But obviously, like, the little bit where, like, Barbie is crying and then looks over at that woman and says, "You're beautiful." And she's like, "I know it." Like, and that's, like, the first hint of what Barbie knows from Barbie Land that she's seen in the real world, where it's like, wow, this is a woman that is, like, confident in herself and, like, understands, like, it kind of goes back to the opening sequence when they're giving out, like, awards, and one of them receives the Nobel Peace Prize for something. I forget what it was. I think it's just the Nobel Peace Prize. And then she's like, what was it? She says, like, thank you, I deserve it, or something like that. Oh yeah, I work very hard, so I deserve it. And like, that's just not something you hear really anyone say. So it's like, for a second it puts you off, but then you're like, I mean, yeah, I guess you worked hard to get a Nobel Prize, you deserve it. But it's just not something that you hear. And I think that coming out of like, and also no one is old in Barbie land. So hearing that kind of sentiment come out of an old woman who's kind of representing everything that Barbie thinks she should be avoiding, but then like it kind of being a heartfelt moment I really love. But even before that, her just like looking at people in the park, interacting, like looking at the trees, listening to the birds chirp, and her just like taking in like time and life for a minute. And like even seeing two men laughing together as well. So it's not just like she's looking around and being like, wow, women are happy here. It's just like, there is beauty here in all places. Even if there is also horses and what else, like boxing and patriarchy and all these things. So I really love that scene. And then I'd say the final standout scene was the one in like the void, whatever, with Ruth Handler and Barbie at the end.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Sorry, I kind of just went off.
It's okay.
You go ahead with what stood out for you?
I mean, I was kind of saying I didn't like it, but like Ryan Gosling as Ken is just wild.
Insane.
And that role is just so funny. And
It's
so
clear
well
he's having
done.
so much fun.
Yeah. And it's just like, he is incredible in the movie. And it's like a great way to like, it's a great character to craft where he's just like kind of pestering, kind of childish, but like also, I don't know. It's like a very interesting representation of a dude.
He's like very clearly like a nervous, like not very confident guy who's trying so hard to appear confident.
Yeah.
It's honestly kind of like a flip of the football players in Bottoms a little bit, where they're like character, like, what would the word be? Characterizations of like a false macho man where he's actually like basically a little baby. And it's kind of like that here, but it's less about like trying to appear, well, I guess it's also trying to appear like strong and mighty, but it's also a confidence thing. I don't know. It's actually kind of a interesting parallel between the movies, but anyway.
Yeah. I think they kill everything with like all the references to Barbie stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that there's the weird Barbie and her house is like all like fucked up.
Yeah.
And like the way that this movie is able to like reference pop culture that everyone kind of knows, like with the with the Birkenstock, or I forget what the other shoe was, but like where she's given the choice to go to the real world or stay in Barbie land, and Kate McKinnon's like,
you don't get a choice.
You can't stay here.
Yeah.
But like just all of these things where like throughout the movie, it's referencing things and consistently funny is great, because this movie could have like really just not worked. Like it would have been so easy for this Barbie stuff to just like fall flat.
Yeah. Well, that's I think like one of the main things that like surprised me with it is like it has no right being this good.
Yeah.
Like it's like, think of like if someone was like, yeah, we're making a Polly Pocket movie or something,
They will be.
I know, and they are. Dude, I saw something that was like Hasbro has like 17 toy-based films, like
like Hot Wheels are probably
Thomas
gonna
the
get
Tank
one.
Engine, and I'm like, don't ruin Thomas or I'll, I don't know, do something bad.
Yeah, it's just like the idea that is what made this movie so popular is just stupid.
Yeah.
The idea that it's like, it's about a toy, guys. How do we not think of that?
Yeah.
Like, that's just fucking dumb.
Well, because as soon as I walked out of the movie, I was like, dude, for sure they're going to... I think I literally said, like, great, now they're going to make a Polly Pocket movie and completely miss the mark, as it, like, Hollywood studio execs always do. They're going to completely miss the mark on what made the movie good and made the movie popular. And then literally the next day I saw a post being like, Polly Pocket Movies being greenlit at whatever. And I was like,
yeah,
of course. Yeah. But,
get used to it, brother.
I know. But like, I don't know. I think even if they tried to replicate the correct things that make this movie so good, it's like, I don't think it would happen, just because I feel like everything kind of lined up for this movie to be exactly what it is, and to try to like replicate it in the same way. I just don't think it would happen.
Yeah.
And like there's talks about a Barbie sequel as well, but like I'm pretty sure Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling have both been like, no, like we did, like that's what the movie is. It's like, what's the sequel? Like,
she made so much money off this movie.
I know.
Fucking ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Some other things I liked when they first go into the real world and you kind of like get Barbie and Ken's perspective on like how different people would treat people who look like them.
Yeah. Is
very like well done and interesting.
Yeah. They're both surprised, but in opposite ways.
Yeah. And then one of the funnier lines that I liked in the movie was when they like go to the construction site and she's like, oh, a construction site, a great time for like some female bonding.
Yeah.
And then the one guy says, if I said you had a hot body, would you hold it against me? I was just like, that's just insane.
Yeah.
But that's definitely been said too.
And says something about like, can I climb in those shorts?
Yeah.
And she's like, we don't have genitals.
Yeah.
And but what I found funny about that is like they're so disrespectful and so like, I mean, they're harassing her truly, but then she's like, we don't have genitals, and they're all like, okay, yeah, that's okay. Sure, like that's fine with us, I guess. But sorry, if you had another one, go ahead.
What was the other one? It was that, and then also, just like in general, Ken kind of figuring things out and being like, oh, this is what dudes are.
Yeah.
But then also
like
the way
slow zoom ins on people doing like a bro thing, and he's like, holy shit, whoa.
And like the guy wearing the fur jacket in Los Angeles, you're just like, that's ridiculous, but it's probably happening right now.
Yeah.
But just like the way that dudes are parodied with like the Matchbox 20 song, and then being like, just like petty squabbles, or like not petty. Small petty squabbles about like just nothing.
Yeah.
Even if it's like before Ken goes to Barbie Land, where it's just like, she's like, oh no, she looked at me, and then he's like, oh no, she looked at him now. It's just like, it captures what a dude is and how dudes feel very well.
Yeah. I think it's very good. He kind of speed ran the indoctrination into toxic masculinity a little bit, not to the full extent, because really it's just he's just realizing what working out and being being, I don't know what the word is. I was gonna say being respected in an unbalanced amount, but I couldn't think of a better word than unbalanced. Doesn't matter. I'm just gonna skip on this point. But I don't know, man. But I don't know. The cops are absolutely horrendous when they get arrested multiple times.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, she looks even better with clothes on. Yeah, it's because you can imagine more. I'm like, Christ almighty, man.
One of the cops is this like stand-up that is on this podcast I like. His name's Adam Ray.
Okay.
He's very funny, but I didn't recognize him the first time I saw the movie because I started watching the podcast afterward. I was like, oh, that's like, it's cool that guy's in here. He's just like funny guy.
Nice.
But like,
it's one of those things where I'm like, it's like when like there will be a TikTok where someone is doing an impression of like a specific insufferable type of person, and you go in the comments and everyone's like, remember this is a skit. Remember this is a skit. Like this isn't actually. And it's kind of like that here where it's like, I need to remember that like someone wrote this because this is a ridiculous thing to say. The person acting and saying this like is in the movie understanding that this is a ridiculous thing to say. Because like it's so easy to hear those things and just be like, man, it's like it's angering to like have that mindset to say something like that. But like, it is to get a point across, which is sometimes difficult to remember.
The last thing I liked is just the dad learning Duolingo. I just think that's funny. That's just a good bit.
Yeah. The fact that I'm pretty sure he doesn't say an English word the whole time. He only says Duolingo lines.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's funny. It's just such like a thing where it's just like 40-year-old dudes trying to learn Duolingo.
Especially the first time he shows up when they're like about to go into Barbie Land and America Ferrera's like, we're going to Barbie Land because I never do anything for myself. And then Ariana Greenblatt's like, what about dad? And then she's like, he'll be fine. They cut and it's like a 5-second scene where he just says some Spanish word at Duolingo and then just smiles and is like, And then they cut back and it's like, yeah, he'll be fine. I don't know. I think the timing of a lot of the jokes is kind of elite.
Yeah, and there's like cutaway gags, which is a rare thing for movies.
Yeah.
Where like they'll cut away to like the weird Barbie getting beat up or like things like that, which I just think is a funny thing to do and keeps the energy up in the movie.
And it gives them a lot of freedom to kind of like do more with it as well.
I have questions. Do you have more notes?
Yeah, let me just breeze through. Oh yeah, one of the opening lines from Helen Mirren narrating is, because Barbie can be anything, women can be anything, which I think is kind of like the through line that kind of goes throughout it. And they do talk about like, yes, Barbie has a like quote unquote like impossible figure. So like it is creating like standards and expectations that are kind of unattainable. But like that is not the purpose of Barbie. That is like the purpose of Barbie is to be like, you can be anything. Excuse me. Sorry. I do think the reveal that America Ferrera was actually the Barbie owner that Barbie was looking for all along, I wouldn't say it falls flat, but it feels like they're like, wait, it was really you the whole time? And it's like, you made it obvious with like maybe literally the first scene America Ferrera's in, she's like, I'm drawing cellulite and existential dread Barbie. And it's like, that's 2 of the 3 things that Barbie said she's struggling with. Yeah. So like they kind of treat it like a reveal, but it's not really a reveal. I guess it's the characters realizing. It's not necessarily us realizing, but still. One line that I liked from one of the Mattel executives, I forget what prompted this. I think Will Ferrell's just like, if we don't do anything about Barbie and like America Ferrera going to Barbie Land, like unimaginable things will happen. And one of them's like a podcast hosted by 2 wise old trees, or a choir of young single dads. And Will Ferrell's like, worse. And I'm like,
what's worse than that?
What is worse than that? Oh yeah, and then they do like a quick ad, because like that's another thing I don't get about like the Barbie Land to real world / Mattel parallel is like Mojo Dojo Casa houses are flying off the shelves like the second that Ken has a Mojo Dojo Casa house. But
also what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
Like does that mean like that the Ken stuff is actually better than the Barbie stuff?
Well that's another thing I was wondering is like, okay, maybe it's just like, whoa, it turns out that like if we widen our market, it's profitable. But it's all, my thing is like, wait, so in Barbie Land, Ken made a Mojo Dojo Casa house, and then warehouses full of them just appeared? Just confused a little bit there. I guess it doesn't really matter. But like...
But it's just like, there's already like 100, most toys are for boys.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. Yeah. It's just a weird thing to be like, and this is the best thing we've ever sold.
Well, that's just like part of the like Mattel stuff seems kind of out of place. It's just like having this random scene with this random warehouse character we've never seen before being like, and now the Mojo Dojo Casa houses are selling well. And Will Ferrell's like, because one of the guys is like, why does it matter if it's Ken or Barbie if it's selling well? And he's like, because we need to empower women. That is the goal, not money. But then when they're in Barbie land, and America Ferrera's like, what if you just have like a regular person Barbie? He's like, that's a bad idea. And then someone goes, that's going to sell well. And he goes, good idea. And then it's like,
well, I think it's just showing that the Mattel executive doesn't have the best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's like, but if he didn't have the best interest at heart, then I feel like he wouldn't have gone back to Barbie land when the Ken stuff was selling well, you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just like a little bit confusing.
It is just kind of like, what's going on here?
But when they're doing that, like, the Kendom is affecting the real world Barbie products, they do like a Depression Barbie commercial, which I think is very funny and has a lot of great lines, like rewatching or like watching reruns of like
the Pride and Prejudice BBC.
Yeah, exactly. And like a bunch of lines, but my favorite was like Depression Barbie eats a tub of ice cream while looking at her friend's weird engagement photos or something like that. And I just remember being in the theater and them like saying like 4 or 5 things in a row in that little Depression Barbie commercial where everybody laughed because everyone was like, I know exactly like everyone, not everyone's experienced every single thing, but everyone had something that was mentioned in there where it's like, I understand that.
Yeah.
I can relate to that one. And I just thought that was funny. When Barbie is basically like crying in Weird Barbie's house and is like, I'm not pretty anymore. I was always like stereotypically pretty Barbie, but like I'm not anymore. And then Helen Mirren coming in and being like, note to the filmmakers, Margot Robbie is the wrong person to cast if you're trying to make this point. I thought was funny. A little bit of self-awareness there. When one of the Barbies is like snaps back into like her consciousness and is like, it's weird, it was like I was in a dream where I was really invested in the Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League.
Yeah,
which I thought was very funny.
That's good.
Alan, when they're doing like the little, I guess, heist, trying to like get the Barbies back and like change their minds, and Alan tries to like hop the fence to get back into the truck, but then he's like, I can't do it, so he brings a chair over, but then he's like, I still can't get over, and they're just like, go around, and like no one realizes. Just very funny. I think the scene where America Ferrera is doing Barbie's makeup before she goes and approaches Ken to like convince him to play guitar at her, and she's just like, Barbie's like, I'm not in love with him, but I still don't want to hurt him. And America Ferrera's like, he stole your house, like, and like uprooted your Supreme Court and brainwashed all of your friends. And Barbie's like, oh, okay, that's a good point. And then they both like laugh a little bit. She's like, is this what being a woman's like? Ha ha ha. That's the first scene, I think, where I'm like, Barbie is like that's a very human scene for Barbie, I feel like just the way that she laughs and interacts with America Ferrera. I'm like, that's the first one where I'm like, oh, she is not like she was at the beginning. She's not like smiling the whole time and being like, ha ha ha, hey everybody. Like, she's very much like a regular person. The Ken fight is amazing, and the various attacks and ways Kens kill each other are very funny. There's one where like I rewound to see what even happened because I was confused. But there's one where like someone goes to punch Ryan Gosling and he blocks it with one hand, and then he makes a fist with the other hand, but then does a wave with his arms and snaps the other one, and the guy like kills the Ken. Yeah. Just like ridiculous stuff. Turning into the dance number is really fun. When Ken loses and is like, when I found out the patriarchy wasn't about horses, I kind of lost interest anyway. I love that. And then honestly, I think that's it.
What's your favorite casting in the movie?
I feel like Ryan Gosling's the easy answer. I feel like the underrated answer might be Margot Robbie as Barbie. Like, it seems like an obvious one, but I think people might not think about it. I think she does a great job. She has a lot of very subtle acting moments that I really like. And I just think she's kind of perfect for the role. But I'm probably going to say Michael Cera as Alan.
That's a good one. Yeah. I think mine's probably... I like Kate McKinnon as the weird Barbie.
I usually don't love Kate McKinnon in things just because... I think it's just because for a bit, it felt like she was oversaturated in media for a bit. But she is kind of perfect.
Yeah, she's great in that. I also like Issa Rae as the President Barbie. But probably Ken. Like, he's just so good in that role. Gosling is.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Billie song, the Billie Eilish song?
Oh, it's I in the context of the movie, it's incredible. Even not in the context of the movie, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it's
like,
a great song.
I think it's like
she's up for like 1,000 awards for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like because I was listening to her talk about it a little bit because there was like a bit of like a singer's songwriter like roundtable a bit ago.
Yeah, it had
with,
like
her,
Olivia
John
Rodrigo.
Batiste, Olivia Rodrigo, and like a couple others. I didn't watch the whole thing, but
Julia
I saw
Michaels.
Yeah, but I saw her talking just about writing that song, and how it kind of was like an accident where she was like, "I'm not writing this about me. I'm just kind of writing this about someone else," and then they made the song and she listened to it and she was like, oh shit, I think this might be about me. But I think that's because there's something in like the lyrics, but also kind of like the very gentle breathiness and the instrumental that kind of like, I don't know, it kind of forces you to like put yourself into what is being said. And I think it's like, I think like if I was like, I gotta listen to a song to like cry to, that would probably be in like one of my top picks. I think it's so good.
It should probably be Pushed though.
It should be Pushed?
Yeah, Push by Matchbox 20.
Oh.
It's good.
I wanna put you
It's such a weird fucking song.
Dude, I saw like a bunch of things like, cause after Barbie came out, my TikTok feed was like 90% people talking about Barbie. But like there were so many where people were like, I didn't realize this was real.
That song?
Yeah, there were people that were like, I thought it was made for the film as a joke.
No.
And
it's like
no.
fucking wild.
Yeah, it's an insane song.
I've heard that song a lot.
Yeah.
Are you excited for Gosling's next movie, The Fall Guy? And also there's another project coming up that I would like to ask you about.
I don't know much about The Fall Guy, but
he's like a stunt guy kind of thing and like supposed to be doing jokes. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not like, oh,
does this make you more excited for it?
I guess so.
Are you like, I want to go see the next Gosling thing now?
I think I liked Ryan Gosling before, but I think this movie, but also just the press for this movie, and I'm 100% certain that I'm not the only one. I think this is a widely believed thing, but like he skyrocketed in like likability.
Yeah. Apparently Margot Robbie's producing an Oceans movie with her and Gosling in it.
Interesting.
And apparently it's in production, so we'll see.
Sick.
But I'm excited for that one. Barbie or Oppenheimer?
Barbie.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I guess so. I don't know. Having time away from both, there's issues with both. I think I should watch Oppenheimer again, but I don't know if I will because it's just so long. And like, there are other long movies I'd rather we rewatch, like Killers of the Flower Moon, probably, or like.
There's just like so many moments in that movie. Like when we saw that, there was someone like 4 rows down that had one of those closed caption things you can get at a theater, where it's just like a little digital like text scroller. And like there were times where I was like trying to look at it because I could not hear what was being said, because most of Cillian Murphy does a great job.
He's just mumbling.
But like, yeah, most of the movie it's him kind of talking like this, but then the music and the sound effect audio is just so loud and blaring. It's like I can't hear a fucking thing. But the movie is very good. Did you just stop recording or something?
No, I just clicked the wrong thing. Adam Driver. I think the obvious is Ken, right?
I feel like he could be a good Ryan Gosling Ken.
Yeah.
But I also think he could be a good like.
He could also probably be like the Mattel CEO.
Yeah. Actually, it would be very fun. So the America Ferrera's husband in the movie is her husband in real life.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just yeah. I didn't write his name down. You can look it up if you really
care. I
care.
don't know if is he famous?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I feel like Adam Driver would be. It would be so funny if Adam Driver was in 2 scenes and he's just doing Duolingo stuff.
Yeah,
because that'd be very fun.
They were in. I think he's in Frances Ha, and they've been in like a bunch of movies together.
Yeah.
There were a couple other people that Greta Gerwig tried to get into the movie, like Timmy Chalamet, because of their past work in Saoirse Ronan, but then she couldn't.
It was apparently kind of like scheduling conflicts
but then, like,
for the most part.
John Cena pops up.
Well, it's weird. Yeah, so John Cena apparently just like contacted Greta Gerwig and was like, "I will literally take any role." And she was like, "What about a merman?" And he was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
And then Michael Cera as well. Apparently, there was someone else they were going to get. Jonathan Groff. They were going to get him, but he said no. All I know is that he said no.
It was like a scheduling conflicts thing.
But then apparently Michael Cera, like, through a mutual friend, got Greta Gerwig's email and was like, "I would love to be in this. Let me know if there is anything." And that she was like, "I will be on Zoom. Here's a Zoom link. I'll be on Zoom for the next hour. And jump on if you want to talk." And he jumped on. And they basically talked about it, and by the end of the call, he was cast as Alan.
Nice.
And it's like,
I like that.
Cool. So I think there's a couple castings like that where
there's also like Bowen Yang was supposed to be one.
Which
Ben
he would
Platt.
be perfect for the film.
And then there was someone else who was like, Dan Levy, who is of Schitt's Creek fame.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'd be funny if Adam Driver was the dad. Anyway.
Yeah.
Where do you want to rank this sucker? I think, since I have to go first.
Yes.
I'm feeling it around the 25 area.
Jeez.
I think it's fun, but like I look at these the movies on this list and I'm like, I kind of like that one better. I kind of like that one better. I kind of like that one better. Like, it's very fun, but it's not like revolutionary to me, at least. It's just kind of like, this is a good movie. This is a very good example of what these movies can be.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it's revolutionary, but I do think that it is like, I do think it kind of had an effect that I haven't really seen a lot of other movies have. And I think it's a movie that kind of has something to say that people haven't really had before. Like there's other movies that say similar things, but like I think just in the way and how obvious it is, but also how clever it is in doing so, I do think it's a very special movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd put it at 25. I'm thinking more around like earnest and honest answer, I'd probably put it like,
this is when he says 25.
I'd probably put it at like 14. TBH.
Interesting.
So that would be below The Thing and above Elf.
Could we split the Diffie?
Which would be
about 20.
Well, it would be like 18.
Sure.
Well, now let's look around that. Shiva Baby, Silence, Bottoms. You love Shiva Baby.
I like it, yeah.
It's in your top. It's in your Mount Rushmore on Letterboxd, brother.
I haven't changed that in a long time.
Okay, well.
But I think Shiva Baby like communicates things better than this movie does.
Okay.
And a lot of similar things.
Actually, what do you think of putting it at 20 below Silence, above Bottoms?
Sure. Sounds good.
That feels like a reasonable compromise. Well, there you go. Barbie, if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to. It's on Crave/HBO. There was one note about Crave's fucking subtitles. Like, one of the narration
The subtitles
things,
are bad.
Yeah, one of the opening things was like, at least that's what Barbie thinks. After all, they're like us, but something else. I forget what the line was, but the subtitle said, at least that's what. After all, they're like...
Yeah.
Didn't even finish the word like.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man. And that happened like 5 times throughout the movie where I'm like, that is...
But they got Barbie with ASL on there, so...
Sick.
Yeah. I guess it wouldn't help if you... Well, actually, I guess subtitles are for people who are deaf, right? Most of the time.
I mean, it depends.
Well,
I mean, I watch everything with subtitles.
I know, but they are for that.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So
I
ASL
feel like
would
that's
help,
like,
but
yeah,
like...
Yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't solve it. The subtitles on Crave are horrendous.
Yes, and
I'm not
always
trying
have
to
been.
say they're good, but I'm just like...
And it feels like such an easy thing to fix.
It's Bell. They're not going to fix it.
Yeah.
Fucking
Dog shit company. Unless you have job openings. So
you gotta wrap this up.
This was our review of Barbster. It's currently ranked 20 on our list, below Silence and above Bottoms. Didn't expect both of these movies to rank right beside each other. That's only happened a couple times. Pretty cool. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode. We love you and appreciate you. Next episode, I actually don't know what it'll be. Yes, I do. It's going to be Fast and the Furious.
The Fast and the Furious.
The Fast and the Furious. Not Fast and Furious or Too Fast, Too Furious. And also not Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, but that's a distinction we should make because there is one called Fast and Furious.
That's why I was like going over the top about how all of these... the at least Star Wars says episode blank, you know?
That's stupid. That's really dumb. Anyway.
Oh,
literally no creativity in the title.
I'm going to have to talk to Calder off pod about like keeping an open mind.
Being like, oh, they put numbers in it. What a revolution. You know what's revolutionary? Changing how you say your title every time. The Fate of the Furious. The number's not even in that one. They don't even have to put it in that one. End it.
Starting next... Jeez. Sorry. Starting next week, we're doing our Fast and Furious versus Star Wars. I'm really excited about it. And we'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.